America has gradually devoted more time and resources to studying the mysterious objects in our skies over the past few years as it overcame the myth that existed over UFOs for many years. And lo and behold, earlier this month, the US government noticed something intriguing hovering over Montana and immediately shot it down. You have likely heard by this point the working hypothesis of the Chinese surveillance balloon that was sent to spy on US soil from above. The US military recently reported that after waiting for the suspected surveillance balloon to float over the ocean to prevent fragments from landing on sea, it had been able to salvage wreckage from the balloon that it shot down on February 4th off the coast of South Carolina. In a statement, US Northern Command noted that crews had been successful in removing a sizable amount of debris from the scene. Includes all of the identified high-priority sensor and electronic components as well as significant portions of the structure. China has refuted the claim that it has been deploying balloons to spy on Americans, stating that the balloons were originally meant for civilian use and that they accidentally drifted into the US. Furthermore, the nation claims that the US has been using high-altitude balloons to sneak peeks over its borders for years. Whose story are we supposed to believe? Well, at this point, it comes down to one global powerhouse to trust over the other, and neither is known to be very trustworthy. Not to mention the number of government propaganda and conspiracy theories that have appeared online. Not to mention the fact that the so-called Chinese surveillance balloon was only the beginning. Several more UFOs have been shot down over North America in the past week, in case you haven't heard. These include an octagonal flying object over Lake Huron in Michigan, as well as high-altitude UFOs over Canada-Yukon territory and Dead Horse in Alaska. What does it all mean? Is there truly a Chinese surveillance balloon invasion of North America? Could it be an army of aliens getting ready to zap us out of existence or swarm us off our sixth space rock? Let's find out. Although the exact definition of a UFO is a little broader, most people quickly associate the term with aliens, making this the most alluring possibility. With mysterious objects circling the United States, it has long been the hub of UFO encounters. Therefore, it comes as no surprise that a significant amount of the speculative material has focused on little green men. The North American Aerospace Defense Command's chief, Glenn Van Herk, told a reporter that he wasn't yet ready to rule out the idea of aliens, which only served to fuel the excitement among amateur ufologists. I'll leave that up to the intelligence and counterintelligence communities. Sadly, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre has now claimed to the public that there is no indication that the recent takedowns were connected to aliens or extraterrestrial activity. John Kirby of the National Security Council has said, "I don't think the American people need to worry about aliens, despite his inability to identify the objects. But if the government intended to hide aliens invading our skies in large numbers, wouldn't they state that?" The first well-known UFO sighting occurred in 1947 when businessman Kenneth Arnold claimed to see a group of 9 high-speed objects near Mount Rainier in Washington while flying his small plane. The crescent-shaped objects, according to Arnold, moved at a speed of several thousand miles per hour and like saucers skipping on water. The UFO were incorrectly described as having a saucer-like shape in the newspaper article that followed, giving rise to the phrase flying saucer. When reports of unexplained airborne phenomena mounted, the US Air Force launched Project Sign in 1948 to investigate them. Although some experts hypothesized that the UFOs could have been spaceships from other planets, the so-called extraterrestrial theory, the initial assessment of those associated with the project was that the UFOs were likely advanced Soviet aircraft. In less than a year, Project Sign was suspended by Project Grudge, in which turn was replaced in 1952 by Project Blue Book, the official investigation of UFOs that lasted the longest and was based at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. More than 12,000 sightings or events were reported to Project Blue Book between 1952 and 1969, and each was ultimately categorized as either unidentified or identified with a well-known astronomical, atmospheric, or artificial human-caused phenomenon. The latter category, approximately 6% of the total, included cases for which there was insufficient information to make an identification with the known phenomenon. There was a UFO fixation in America at the time. A series of alarming radar and optical sightings were reported close to a national airport in Washington, D.C. during the humid summer of 1952. Not everyone agreed with the explanations for these events, even though temperature inversions in the air over the city were to blame. In the meantime, there had been an unprecedented increase in UFO reports. The US government set up an expert group of scientists to look into the phenomenon after being prompted by the Central Intelligence Agency to do so. The panel, which comprised other physicists, an astronomer, and a rocket engineer, was led by H.P. Robertson, a physicist at the California Institute of Technology in Pasadena, California. In 1953, the Robertson panel convened for 3 days of interviews with the military officers and the Project Blue Book director. They also looked at UFO-related videos and images. They came to the following conclusions. There was no obvious security threat. There was no evidence to support the ETH. And 90% of the sightings could easily be attributed to astronomical and meteorological phenomena like bright planets and stars, meteors, auroras, iron clouds, or such earthly objects as aircraft, balloons, birds, and searchlights. Portions of the panel's report were kept under wraps until 1979, and this protracted period of secrecy fed rumors that the administration was covering something up. At the Air Force's request, a second committee was formed in 1966 to examine the most intriguing information obtained by Project Blue Book. The results of this committee's 2-year inquiry into 59 UFO encounters were published as scientific investigations of unidentified flying objects, widely known as the Condon Report after the committee's physicist leader Edward U. Condon. A National Academy of Sciences special committee examined the Condon Report. The report's 59 UFO encounters were thoroughly investigated with chapters or portions of chapters written by a total of 37 scientists. The group came to the same conclusions as the Robertson panel. There was no proof in the accounts of anything other than typical phenomena, and additional research into UFOs was not necessary. Project Blue Book was dismantled in 1969 as a result of this and a drop in sightings. Despite the ETH's inability to gain traction with the expert committees, a few scientists and engineers, most notably J. Allen Hynek, an astronomer at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois, who was involved with the SIGN, Grudge, and Blue Book projects, concluded that a small percentage of the most trustworthy UFO reports provided concrete evidence for the presence of extraterrestrial visitors. The Center for UFO Studies, which Hynek founded, is still looking into the issue. The Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, a covert effort that operated from 2007 to 2012, was another significant American investigation into UFO encounters. The assertion that the US government had alloys and chemicals allegedly obtained from unidentified flying objects was the most sensational component of the AATIP when it was made public in December 2017, although many scientists were dubious about this claim. The only other official and rather comprehensive records of UFO encounters, aside from American attempts, were led in Canada. These documents were transferred from the Canadian Department of National Defence to the Canadian National Research Council in 1968. The records from Canada included roughly 750 sightings. Less comprehensive records have been kept in the UK, Sweden, Denmark, Australia, and Greece. The Mutual UFO Network in Bellevue, Colorado, and CUFOs continue to record sightings reported by the general public in the United States. UFO sightings in the Soviet Union were frequently brought on by tests of classified military missiles. The government occasionally promoted the idea that these rockets might be extraterrestrial objects to conceal the true origin of the experiments, but eventually decided that the descriptions themselves might reveal too much information. Similar military activity that is hidden from the public has led to UFO sightings in China. Observing conditions such as fog, haze, kind of lighting, and the direction of the sighting, as well as the number of witnesses and whether or not they were independent or one another, have all been used to determine the reliability of UFO claims. Most people who bother to report a sighting assume the item is extraterrestrial in origin or even a military craft, although it is undoubtedly under intelligent control. This assumption is typically made based on observations of objects that appear to be flying in formation. Abnormal, often sudden motions, a lack of sound, variations in brightness or color, and odd shapes. It is widely acknowledged that human sight is deceptive. A bright light, like the planet Venus, frequently seems to be moving. Although they appear to follow the car, astronomical objects can sometimes be unsettling for drivers because they are dependent on an imagined size and frequently taken against a clear sky without a backdrop object like clouds or mountains to determine a maximum distance. Visual impressions of the distance and speed of UFOs are also quite incorrect. Superimposed views are created by reflections off of windows and eyeglasses, and sophisticated optical devices, such as camera lenses, can transform point sources of light into phenomena that appears to be saucer-shaped. Several claims of visual UFOs are known to be the result of such optical illusions and the psychological need to interpret visuals. And at least some sightings are known to be fakes. Radar sightings, albeit in some ways more trustworthy, are unable to distinguish between man-made objects and meteor trails, ionized gas, rain, or thermal discontinuities in the atmosphere. Abductions and other contact experiences that are attributed to extraterrestrial beings are frequently linked to UFOs. However, the majority of the psychologists who have looked into the issue question the validity of the ETH as an explanation for abductions. They speculate that the explanations may be sleep paralysis, a regular occurrence that renders sleepers temporarily immobile and gives them the impressions that someone is watching them. Anyways, what are your thoughts on these unidentified flying objects? Let us know in the comment section below. Alright guys, that wraps up our video for today. Please give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more.